Welcome back to my series on basic injury prevention for dancers. If you are a dancer who does not currently do any type of conditioning or cross-training or exercise outside of dance, this series is for you. If you are a dancer who happens to play soccer or already do a bunch of other activities, this is not for you. Keep up the good work. But if you need somewhere to start, you have come to the right place. So this video is going to focus on our core. Now I'm sure you dancers probably do tons and tons of sit-ups and crunches and probably think your core is really strong already. I'm going to be focusing on a different type of core work today. This type of core work is all about stability and avoiding injuries in our low back and our spine. So I think it's helpful to think of the core as a can. The top of the can is going to be the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the muscle that helps us breathe, and it separates our chest cavity from our sort of stomach cavity. And then the bottom of the can is going to be our pelvic floor. You can think of the pelvic floor as a little hammock that sort of holds all of our organs in and prevents them from falling out the bottom of our pelvis. The front of the can is going to be that rectus abdominis, that six-pack muscle that I'm sure you have figured out how to work and exercise really well. The back of the can is our spine and also our spinal extensors, those muscles that kind of arch our back. But a really crucial part of the can, metaphor or analogy is the transverse abdominis. The transverse abdominis is a muscle that wraps around our whole entire stomach. So the fibers of the rectus are running up and down. The fibers of the transverse abdominis are running horizontally. So it's more like a corset that can kind of hold everything in. So as you can see in this can, nothing is spilling out of it. Every single component of the can is doing its job. If I were to poke a hole in the side of the can, all the soup would spill out the side. If I poked a hole anywhere in the can, the soup would start spilling out. And so that is why I like this analogy or metaphor, if you will, is because we need every single component to be doing its job in order to kind of hold and kind of compress in this area. And really what it's doing is supporting the spine. You want your spine to be nice and supported. So you are going to start laying just like I am on the floor. So your feet are flat on the floor with your knees bent in the air. And what you're going to start by doing is rocking your pelvis back and forth. So I'm going to tuck my butt under and see how far I can come in this direction. And now I'm going to do the opposite and tip my pelvis forward and see how far I can move in this direction. So I'm just going to rock back and forth, just trying to get a sense of how much motion I have here. As dancers, we tend to be really good at this one. We tend to be really good at tucking our butt under and making our back go flat onto the floor. So I'm just moving between these two positions. And then once you have a good idea for how far you can go in both directions, what I want you to do is stop in the middle. And what the middle might feel like for some people is it might feel a little bit more this way, or it might feel a little bit more this way. That's because in dance we kind of alternate between those extremes and we don't spend a ton of time in this neutral position. So for me, my middle feels like there's a tiny bit of space in between my low back and the floor. I'm not pressing my back flat against the ground. My Pilates teacher used to call it a house for a mouse. There's just a little tiny bit of space in between there. So once you've found this neutral position, I just want you to breathe normally. Which is like saying, don't think of pink elephants. When somebody tells you to do something normally, I know it's not easy, but just try to observe your breath for whatever it is at the moment. And then I want you to take a big breath in. And when you blow it out, you're going to take your belly button slightly back and towards your head, just a little bit. And then let go and totally relax it. So that belly button is going back towards your spine and up towards your head. ever so slightly. So I'll show you what that looks like for me. And then I let it go and I relax. So we're just going to practice turning on that transverse abdominis muscle. It's not going to feel like a workout, like you're doing 1,000 crunches as hard as you can. It should just feel like there's something going on in the background. So let's try it again. Take a big deep breath in. Blow it out. And take that belly button back towards your spine and up towards your head. And then let it go. Let it relax. So your first objective is just to practice turning it on and off. Let me show you a couple places where people go wrong. So a place that I sometimes see is people really sucking in and kind of letting their ribs get a little out of control. You want to keep those ribs quiet. So it's just truly that belly motion. And then another place that people tend to fall into is holding their breath once they've gotten there. So your first challenge is just to turn it on, just to find it and feel like there's something going on in the background. And then once you have it, I want you to just try to breathe normally while you have it on. So I'll show you what that looks like for me. So as you can see, my stomach was still expanding and moving a little bit as I had that muscle on because it's just on in the background. It's not, again, a huge sit-up or a crunch. So step 1, find it, turn it on, practice turning it on and off. Step 2, turn it on and practice breathing normally. And then your next challenge is to start moving your legs around a little bit while you have that muscle on. So this is really, really, really basic. But it's where everybody should really start to kind of figure out where this muscle is and see if we can develop some control over it. So the next kind of level up is turning it on. So I'll take a big breath in. And now that I have it turned on, I am going to let my knees slightly fall out to the sides and then back together. And I'm going to let them fall slightly to the sides and back together while I have that muscle on. And then, just do a couple, let it go. But the goal is to see if you can keep all of this stable while you're moving your legs and not let your pelvis rock around, not lose that muscle and have it turn off completely. So I will show you that one more time. Alright, and that is your very basic how to turn on your transverse abdominis. While we're here, another great exercise for building kind of core stability is working on our glutes. So how I like to do this is with a good old-fashioned glute bridge. So, how you're going to start this is, remember that rocking that we did before? You are going to rock so that your pelvis is all tucked under and your back is flat on the ground. That's how you know you're really squeezing those glutes. And then once you've got that position, you're going to lift up into the air, squeezing the whole time, and lower back down. I like to kind of let my spine roll down one bone at a time. So you'll do that again. Really start by squeezing, squeezing the butt, and lowering back down. If that feels easy, there are some ways you can level it up is by adding a hold at the top. So you can come up and hold for 5 seconds or hold for 10 seconds and then slowly lower back down. You can also just do more repetitions. So if you started out doing 10 3 or 4 times, do 12 3 or 4 times, and decrease the time in between those reps. There's different ways that you can kind of level it up, but this is a great exercise to start for dancers because oftentimes we have really tight glutes, but that does not mean that we have strong glutes. So stick around for the next video and we will keep working on strengthening to prevent injuries.